Here's an interesting quote regarding regenerative agriculture that I heard spoken by a scientist at a Quivira conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. If 1% of India's arable land, which is now dead, were to be regenerated, it could absorb all the carbon dioxide produced by humans on the planet. One of the wonderful inventions that's supporting renewable agriculture, take a look at here, is called the keyline plow. Let's see if we can get here we go. The keyline plow is basically shanks that go deep into the ground. They do not turn the soil over so that none of the nutritive value and the microbiological life of the soil is exposed to ultraviolet deterioration. There's a good view of the keyline plow, which was developed in Australia. And here you can see the shanks that do the subsoil plowing without turning over the soil, and discs to cut through in front of each one to make it easier to penetrate. And I would like to see, since these are rather expensive plows, I'd like to see a simple one shank plow or two shank that could be pulled by animal traction or a very light tractor to be able to do this subsoil plowing. Because what is happening is that when an entire field is plowed in this way, moisture, when it rains, goes immediately down deep into the soil, and oxygen, which gets down in there, helps to regenerate the soil, and it becomes a carbon capturing field. And this is why we have this quote that if 1% of India's land arable land were regenerated, it could absorb all the carbon dioxide produced by humans, because it draws down the carbon from the atmosphere and then turns that carbon into tissue of plants and trees, which then absorb even more. And so this is a wonderful invention from Australia that was invented by a gentleman named Yeoman. It's also known as the Yeoman Plow Company. So check it out. I'm going to put up here on the on my laptop a link where you can actually go and see the see if I can get out here, where you can actually go and see a video of the plow at work and get a good idea of how it works. Let's take a look. Here we go. It's www.youtube.com, and then there's what goes after the /, or you could simply do a search in YouTube for the keyline plow. I'm going to turn on a light now here in my studio, and I'm going to make a drawing of the keyline, the reason why it's called a keyline plow. If you can imagine it moving along, maybe making 4 cuts into the earth. You want that first key line to be perpendicular to the flow of water. So whether it's runoff or subterranean water or the irrigation water, it should be perpendicular. And what happens is that the water immediately flows across the entire field. And so even in a heavy rain that might fall on your field, it goes right down and disappears. So that even introducing irrigation water to one point can actually irrigate the entire field, as was done on our property in New Mexico. We were able to irrigate at one point and the entire field would get flooded. It's very efficient. And this would bring seeds to life that might be waiting hundreds of years. And so I had a lamb's quarter that was 7 feet tall come up after plowing our field. The so-called weeds went wild, but I know that they're good for the soil, many of them fixing nitrogen, and then the microbiological life comes back to be able to transfer the CO2 to the tissue, the root tissue of plants, which then, of course, absorb more CO2. And so this is why the quote was that 1 cubic foot of soil could, over a planting season, absorb 1 ton. 1 ton of carbon dioxide per cubic foot of soil. That's what the scientist said, and I'm just quoting that person. The fact that this microbiological life is the only way that minerals and vitamins can be transferred to the plants is a very important part of regenerative agriculture. These microbiological organisms transfer to the leaf structures of our vegetables that we eat, and therefore our gut, our digestive tract, gets full of these microbiological organisms, which then make the transfer of minerals and vitamins to our bodies much more effective.